Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday's Energy Mantra and Report for today. So, today we are going to be using a card deck. We'll just be pulling one from the Postcards from Spirit. And of course, before we get into that, let's talk about our energy mantra for today. So, good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Shirley. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So, today's energy mantra is I place my future in the hands of the divine. So, once again, our energy mantra for today is I place my future in the hands of the divine, which actually it comes from a Course in Miracles lesson, which is I place my future in the hands of God. And this is such a great affirmation, not only because it's this invitation to let go of control, it's this invitation to really surrender. See, we have a hard time doing that. And the reason we have a hard time surrendering is because we have this belief that if we surrender our future to the divine, or if we surrender anything over to the divine, that means that we're not going to have happiness. And that's not true. Not at all. When we actually hand something over to the divine, that means we are guaranteed happiness. We just have we've put a lot of value on our plans and what we think should happen and what we think is going to make us happy. And that's why there's that quote or that saying that says, when man plans, God laughs. God's not laughing at you. He's not saying, you're stupid or I have something, worse off for you. He's simply saying, you dream far too small and I have something even better for you that you couldn't even imagine right now is what I have planned, because the divine has given us everything. So today's energy mantra is really about allowing yourself to give over all of your fears, all of your anxieties, all of your worries about the future, about, what to do next, how to do it, when to do it, what you should do, and handing that over to the divine so that you can be led to the next right action step. Because what tends to happen is that, like I said, we've already planned what should happen, when it should happen, how it should happen. And what we want to do is we want to step back from that and allow ourselves to be led. So now let's go to our postcards from Spirit for today. And remember that with all of this that I've talked about, remember, I'm going to have other resources for you today to look at, to practice, all throughout the day. So you can, of course, like or follow the page so that way you can see all of those different resources that I will be putting up for today. So now let's go to the postcards from Spirit and let's see what additional information Spirit would like to give to us today. Okay, so I'm being guided to also express that, for those of you that follow astrology, right now we are in Pisces. We're in the season of Pisces, if you will, which means that this is a lot about, if we look at Pisces, it's the two fish, kind of chasing each other. And it's a water sign. And water is always about that flow. And so that also goes with our energy mantra for today, and also goes with a lot of the things that are happening right now. We're being asked to step into flow. Stepping into flow doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to know the 10th step. Stepping into flow means that you merely do what is in front of you to do. So I just felt like that was something that needed to be said. Okay, so we actually have two postcards here that fell out. So we will see what fabulousness we have. So our first one is, Dear You, uncertainty is the new normal for the whole world. Things are changing at a rapid pace, and the old way we once trusted are no longer reliable. But leaving the familiar behind can be a good thing. So right here, it's already this beautiful confirmation that there is uncertainty, and it's okay to be uncertain because we're handing our future over to the divine, which can make us feel very uncertain, which can make us feel very unstable because we're not necessarily in charge or in control. So then it says, let's see, good thing. When you are pushed to step into the unknown, you are pulled forward into discovering new possibilities that have been hidden in plain sight. And of course they've been hidden in plain sight because we've been so focused on our plan that we can't see what's right in front of us, the signs, the symbols that the divine is sending to us because we've been so focused on, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to get there. Check in with your higher power. Your soul knows better than your small self. And the small self is simply meaning that ego self. Have faith in the support of your higher power. So going back to what we talked about, remember, if we hand our future over to the divine, we are guaranteed happiness. Not, well, maybe I'll get happiness, maybe I won't. Guaranteed happiness, because what does the divine want for you? Nothing but your happiness. And the divine will is for all beings to be happy and free. The higher power with infinite potential for your life. Right now, the advice we have for you is this. Try something new. Do something different. You won't know how it feels, what it looks like, or what the outcome will be if you do not take the first step into the unknown and experience the unfamiliarity. So also going with that message of flow. We're not going to know step 20. We'll only be led step by step. Not, okay, here's step 1 and now here's step 20. You'll be so glad you did because the treasure will appear. We're so proud of you for being brave. You are so loved and so supported. So that's our first one. And then our second postcard is, Dearest You, there are times when loss is a part of life. Okay, so right here, I love how this is starting out. Because what it's talking about with that loss, once again, when we hand over our futures to the divine, it may feel like you are losing something or that there is that sense of loss. Well, now I'm not in control anymore and I'm not going to get what I want. We have to remember, when you surrender your plan, you get the divine plan. The divine plan includes everything. Your plan is very selective. And just realize that the plan that you may have is a very selective plan, where the divine plan has everything. So there's a beautiful line in A Course in Miracles that says, what was it? When I give up nothing, I gain everything. And what it means by nothing is giving up the fear, giving up the anxiety, and giving up all that stuff. It says sometimes a loss is welcome, like when you leave a situation not in alignment with your highest good. So right there, when we leave a situation not in our highest good, when we let go of our plan, because even though we may think it's the best, it's the greatest, it's the most, it doesn't mean that it is. And that comes back to that surrender. Sometimes loss is sudden and painful, like when a loved one crosses over to our dimension. Regardless of the nature of the loss and your control over it, your experience is asking you to acknowledge, or is asking to be acknowledged. Tears may be necessary, as is grief. When you repress your natural expression of loss and try to move too quickly, the unprocessed pain haunts you in destructive ways. We do not want that for you. Instead, let your heart break wide open. Feel the loss and integrate it. See the beauty that was, the lessons learned, and know and know that as you let go of what has passed, evermore of you remains. It gets better. We promise your heart expands with more compassion for the world than ever before. Love heals all. We are loving you, sending you love always and forever. So really beautiful. So both of those cards are telling us that, sometimes the first card telling us that we're going to step into uncertainty. The second card telling us that there may be that sense of loss. And it could be a loss of identity. Maybe you've tried to make something work and you've just tried and you're trying to make it work and it just doesn't. So you may feel like, you're a failure. You may feel like you're not good enough because it didn't work the way that you thought that it should. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. All it simply means is it was no longer in alignment. That's it. And it doesn't mean that that thing won't come back around, or it doesn't mean that you can't continue to do that thing. It just simply means let go of your plan, let go of your identity that you have put within that relationship, that situation, that job, that title. That's the nothing. Those are nothing. So that you can gain everything. Titles are nothing. In truth, they're absolutely nothing. They simply demonstrate or give us a way of communicating what we do. So, maybe you're a CEO, maybe you just work from home. Doesn't matter. And then the next thing, don't put all of your happiness into one relationship. If you put all your happiness into one relationship, well, then you are denying yourself the happiness that is all around you, because you're saying my happiness only exists here in this one place. And we have to let that go as well. So just be willing today to, as much as you can. A great visualization that you can do is simply close your eyes and imagine, two giant glowing white hands, or just two giant hands in front of you. And you're placing, your relationships in those hands. You're placing your finances in those hands. You're placing your health. You're placing your body. You're placing your wellness. You're placing all of that into the hands of the divine, because that's how we really get to that happiness, is by surrendering our need for things to be a particular way. We don't know what happiness is. We don't know how to get there a good majority of the time. And that's okay, because there is a force within us that does know and will guide us every step of the way if we're willing to step in to that divine flow. So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. Once again, there will be further resources for you today for our energy mantra and what we have talked about. So feel free to come back at 10 o'clock this morning, 12 o'clock this afternoon, and 3 o'clock, where I will have different quotes and different spiritual tools that you can use for today. So I thank you so much for joining. I thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow.